Refresh.
Hey, hello everybody. We are live today. Oh, let me turn I gotta Okay, there we go. We're gonna fix that echo. Ignore that first part. The echo is now gone.
Mhm.
Welcome everybody. Super excited to be here. I'm Kristina from Fictionary, and Ramona is here from BookBaby, and we're going to kind of tag team a little bit today. And so I'm going to talk about the structure of a novel and 5 scenes that you need in genre novels. And then Ramona's going to take over and she's going to talk about, well, what do you do after you write this fabulous book? You got to publish it somewhere. And so she's going to talk about how to do that at BookBaby. Alrighty, so I'm just going to move Ramona off to the background until it's her turn, and we'll get going. Okay, so here we are. First of all, about me, why I'm talking to you about story structure. I am the founder and CEO of Fictionary. I'm a best-selling nonfiction writer. So these are my books here, and they're all secrets to writing something. So secrets to outlining a series, outlining a novel, writing a novel, etc., etc. I'm award-winning author on my fiction side of my books, the Stone Mountain series. I'm a story coach, editor, and I'm a guide dog puppy trainer. And I just put this here because it makes everybody smile. People just like a puppy picture. So this is what I do on my volunteer side of my life. So today we want to talk a little bit about commercially successful books and what makes them successful and what you can do as an author when you're writing your books. So all of these books have 5 key scenes in them, and they are what helps them be a commercially successful novel. And you can see here we've got Fourth Wing, which is fantasy. We've got The Housemaid, which is thriller. We've got Sandra Brown with Mean Streak. September House, horror, really fun horror to read. Flat Shares, romance. And then Skyward, of course, is sci-fi. And so it's very interesting when you start looking across genre fiction at these 5 scenes that we call the story arc scenes. And I'm going to walk you through these. If I can click forward. There we go. All right, so these scenes, the inciting incident, plot point 1, the middle plot point 2, and the climax are all in the 6 books that I showed you, crossing the genres. And they're not only in the books, they have key functions that they perform in each book. Even though we're talking about different genres, there's still a key function that's common to them all. And not only do you have to have them and they have to do the right things, they also have to be at the right place in your novel. Again, I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to go through all of this with you. And really what we're talking about here is if you add all of these scenes in, doing the right things at the right place in your story, you've got the structure for a good story and you're well on your way to a commercially successful novel. Okay, so we're going to start with the inciting incident. So first of all, what is the inciting incident? Well, this is a scene in your novel, and it's something that disrupts the protagonist's ordinary world. And there'll be a main event in this scene. And when I say scene, this could be a sentence, a paragraph, a full scene, multiple scenes, multiple chapters. It depends on the story you're telling. So we're going to use all the way through this. We're going to use scene a little bit loosely. And the purpose of this is to disrupt the ordinary world. So then the protagonist, when they get a little farther along, they have a goal that they're trying to achieve. Typically, this scene is before 15% in your story. If it comes too late, the reader starts wondering what's happening in the story. You can have it before the scene and before the story starts, sorry, and that will have to be told then in backstory or flashback because it's got to be there somewhere, whether it's active or previous. And here's the kicker. If there is no change to the ordinary world, there is no story. So if you think about telling a story about your protagonist in their ordinary world, and they're getting up and they go to work and they have lunch and they go home, that's nice, but there's really nothing to engage your reader. And it's the inciting incident that's the thing that gets the reader excited about your story. Usually it's told from your protagonist's point of view, but not always. And it's an event that the protagonist will react to. So something happens, they're going to react to it. And when we go through some genre specific stuff, I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay. Then we have plot point 1. So what is plot point 1? This is where the protagonist accepts your story goal. So if we look at our genres, we can see that a mystery, the story goal would be something like the detective must find who committed the crime. That's a story goal. And so maybe in plot, or maybe in the inciting incident in a mystery, the detective finds a body, but for some reason doesn't want to do the investigation. Or maybe it's an amateur sleuth and they don't know they're going to investigate it yet, but it's certainly shaken up their life. By plot point 1, they decide, yep, I'm going to find the murderer. A romance, it's all about accepting an attraction to another person, or an alien, if it's, a fantasy story, I don't know. Fantasy, it's about the supernatural world. Sci-fi, of course, is science fiction. It's about sci-fi. Horror, it's about surviving the night. You want to beat the monster. So every genre has its own plot point. Why do we have this? We have this because if the protagonist doesn't accept their story goal, there is no story. So if the detective finds a dead body but doesn't do anything, there's no story. The story's over. There's like, oh, look, there's a dead body. That's, really helpful, but not going to do much. And so what we do here is we make sure they accept the story goal. This happens somewhere between 20 and 30% in your novel. That's a loose guideline. If it's too late, the reader gets bored. If it's too early, the story could lack depth and the reader's not feeling too connected with the character. So once they make this decision, they're going to do some story goal attempts. They're going to try and figure out how to get to this until they get to the middle plot point. We often hear the middle plot point is the messy middle because nobody knows what to do. But if you know what these scenes do, it's easier to write them. So here, this is where the protagonist changes from proactive to reactive. And what this means, up until now, something's been happening and the protagonist has just been reacting. This happened, they did this. This happened, they did this. At the middle point, they start making a plan and driving the story. So they choose what happens. They're going to do something based on what's happened up to the middle plot point, and now they're going to drive the story. And why is this important? So if this scene is not in your story, the story's going to drag in the middle. And it's a common issue with authors to really struggle with the middle. And the protagonist has to drive the story. If they just keep reacting and nothing's happening, then the story's going nowhere. There has to be a way for you as the author to control the story, to drive that protagonist to actually get to the climax scene and either achieve their story goal so the detective finds the culprit, or they don't, and maybe you're writing a long series and they get away. Lots of options there. This happens, of course, around the middle, 45 to 55% of your novel, somewhere in there. Then we have the lowest point, plot point 2. And plot point 2 is an interesting one because there's really 2 parts to plot point 2. And so here, what it is in this scene, the protagonist is at the lowest point in the story. And what this means, if you want to take it in the context of the story goal, they're farthest away from achieving the story goal. And this could mean different things for different genres. So the mystery, the detective is farthest away from solving the crime, or a romance, there's a breakup. They're farthest away from getting their happily ever after moment. In a fantasy, maybe they find out there's some really extreme limitation to their magic and there's no possible way they can achieve their story goal. So depending on the genre, you can do things. And then they also receive their final piece of information they need to succeed in the climax. Now, they might not know they need this yet. They might not understand the relevance of this piece of information, but it's in there. And we put this in with plot point 2, but it could be in the scene before, the scene after. It's just somewhere in the general area. And here we're looking at somewhere between 70 and 80% this plot point is happening. Why do we have it? Here, the reader's been with you for a while, and the goal is you want to remind them that the protagonist might not achieve their story goal. And that's what adds tension to a story. So at this point, we've been ramping up, and this just adds more tension to keep your reader reading. They want to be unsure. If they know at this point that the protagonist can achieve the story goal, the story's over. We haven't really gotten to the end yet. And so this point is important for that. And if you can stick the final piece of information here, it becomes believable. If you put a final piece of information right before the climax scene, so let's say we have a horror story and this is really boring, but a monster can only be killed with a glass of lemonade thrown at them. And right before the climax scene, the protagonist finds that glass of lemonade. Not believable. But if it's background plot point 2, they learn that, lemonade can actually do this thing, they can use it. And so it becomes non-coincidental and believable to the reader. All right, so that's plot point 2. Oh, sorry. And without the final piece of information, they can't achieve the goal. So it's got to be something that they need to have to achieve the story goal. All right. So now we get to the climax scene. And the climax scene is, does the protagonist achieve the story goal or not? So if we look at, there's some really obvious examples. So Fourth Wing, Violet's goal is to survive the dragon's quadrant. She wants to live. So at the end, in the climax scene, she lives or dies. Twilight, her goal is to become a vampire in book 1. So in book 1, she fails her goal because she doesn't become a vampire in book 1. In a romance, the goal is, does she achieve, or do the characters achieve their happily ever after? And the answer is yes in a romance. If they don't, it's a love story, and that's okay too. So it's very dependent on the genre that you're writing. And why? Because then the reader is satisfied. So if your whole story is about finding a murderer, the reader's going to have a hard time if you don't. And so this way, you know you've left the reader satisfied. And even if you're writing a series, there's got to be a book 1 goal. There can be a series goal that doesn't, well, and shouldn't be accomplished in this book, but book 1 has to feel like it's a finished book. So that's our, this comes somewhere around 90%. So that is our 5 scenes. So now what I want to show you a little bit is about what this means for our Fictionary community. So what I'm showing you here, this is a drawn version of the story arc. And I'm going to go into our software. So Fictionary has software. We've got courses. We've got a community where we have writers and editors, and our whole motto is you have to be kind. We're a very kind community, which somebody already put in the chat earlier, which is lovely. And so with all of these things together, we can help you really write a solid story. So I'm just going to go over to the app for a second, and I want to show you a version of what the story arc looks like. And so Fictionary is built around the structure of a story. This is our storyteller software. And what it does is it helps you outline, write, edit, and revise your story in one place on a scene level and then a fully structural level. And so if we look on the left here, we're in the evaluate page in Storyteller software, which is the Fictionary app. And here we've got our outline. So this is a written book. You could start from scratch and have no scenes here, and you build your outline as you go. In the middle is where you write. And then on the right, we've got our character, plot, and setting story elements. And this is where you evaluate your story. And so this helps you look at every scene in your story. You have an opening image, you have an inciting incident, a reaction to the inciting incident. So the scenes that surround your 5 key stories. And with that, you can build and ensure you're writing a really strong story. So if I go to the Visualize tab, And here, this is our story arc. So Fictionary has looked at the manuscript, and I'll just say right now, we don't use our manuscript for training. It's never shared anywhere. We don't ever touch the text on your manuscript. That's totally up to you. So here, this is the story arc, and Fictionary has shown you what a perfect story arc is in this blue line. And then on this orange line, this is the actual book that's imported here into into the bookshelf for this story. And you can see here, we talked about, you've got your inciting incident. And if you don't remember what it is, you can read it there. We've got plot point 1, we've got the middle, plot point 2, and the climax. And what this is showing here for this book, plot point 2 is way out here. And so it's too late in the story. And that means between here and here, this story is dragging. And so the author has some work to do to either shorten this up, move stuff out here, fill this out. You can decide artistically what's best for your book. And here then, this would then, hopefully you would do your revisions and you move some scenes around or cut some scenes or add some scenes and straighten out the story arc. Here, this is really close. Middle plot point's great spot. So when you make these changes, you want to make sure this stays here. And every time you change your story in Fictionary, it will redraw this for you so you can see the impact. Then we have here plot point 2. That's close enough. Climax is close enough. For this book, the major structural issue is this. And so if you were editing and revising within Fictionary, you would make your first changes here. And when you make changes, you make them here. You can click through any scene. You can see on the side, we've got notes per scene here of what's needed in a scene. And then if we look at who's the point of view character, point of view goal, etc. So you have lots of opportunity to work on your story at the big picture level, and then also at this scene level. And then the goal is you end up with a really structurally sound story at the end of your novel. I'm going to go back now over here and share this tab instead. So we're back on the 5 scenes, which is the main thing that I wanted you to take away from today. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. We're going to do a little, I chose romance today to do a little bit of a walkthrough of what you need for these scenes. So when we look at our 5 story arc scenes, we've got our inciting incident, and it's the shake-up to the ordinary world. We've got our plot point 1, the protagonist accepts the story goal, our middle, change from reactive to proactive, worst moment, and final information is plot point 2. And then in the climax, it's goal not achieved. So this is a universal story arc. You can apply this to any genre that you're writing. They all have it. They all do these 5 key things. So now if we look at romance, so in romance, the inciting incident is a meet cute. Now, romance has a very specific guideline here. So the meet cute is just when the love interests meet each other. So they have to meet each other or they can't have a happily ever after moment. That totally makes sense. If they don't meet each other, there's no story. So they meet each other. What's different about the romance genre is this scene must happen on the page. You have to show your reader. That's why romance readers read this. They want to see the couple meet, so then they understand the importance of the happily ever after. Where in a mystery, the crime could have happened before the story starts. The reader doesn't need to see it. They need to know what happened, but they don't need to see it on page. So if we look at that's our shake up of the ordinary world is the meet cute. So then we have the story goal accepted. So in a romance now, we've got attraction acknowledged. And what this means is at least one of the love interests is acknowledging to themselves they're attracted to the other person. They may not like that they are, they might resist it, which also makes good tension. But at least one has to be attracted, or again, there isn't a story without it. If there's no attraction, there's not going to be a happily ever after moment, and then we're not writing a romance. Okay, so then we have the middle plot point, again, change from reactive to proactive. And what this means in a romance is here, something happens that one of the love interests forces a change in the romance direction. So a book like The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, right in the middle, the main character's best friend tells her her love interest is cheating on her and she believes it. And so she takes they've been going so great and the romance is going so well. She changes the direction and she goes proactively she's got to end this relationship, even though the information is false. So it can change in a bad way, or it could change in a good way. Then we have worst moment and final piece of information. And so in a romance, this is the breakup. And breakup can be anything. It could be one of the characters moved across the world, or they go to Mars, or they're separated that way. It could be a coma. It could be they actually break up. That is, what you consider a breakup. And so for some reason they're split. And here there'll be a piece of information they don't understand yet, but it's in there of why they're going to have their happily ever after moment. And here, goal achieved or not, which is the climax scene. So for romance, this is the happily ever after moment or the happy for now moment. And this could mean holding hands for the first time to married with 4 children and 2 dogs and a white picket fence, whatever. Doesn't matter. It can be anything. And so as long as it's their happily ever, that fits their story. And so with this, what we do at Fictionary, we have live courses and they're 8 weeks long. They're 1 hour a week. We don't record them so that people can ask questions specifically about their stories. And in them, we go in depth. And right now we've got in-depth courses on genre for romance, mystery, and fantasy. And we're adding thriller, horror, and sci-fi as we go forward. And we really take you through a deep dive into what you need in every scene in your novel for your genre. Okay, so then we, after that, we've also got corresponding courses that are online, self-paced, that if you miss a class because they're live recorded, you can actually go to those. So we do all this in Fictionary, and then we got curious and we surveyed thousands of our writers, and here's what we found. And maybe this resonates with you, but challenges facing genre writers today. 1, writes too much time, I'll never finish. And we have a lot of writers who've come in and told us it took them 10 years, 2 years, etc., to write their first book. And then when they went through the Fictionary method, they managed to do 80,000 words in 8 weeks in our Write Your Novel course. And so we have a very specific way of addressing, I'll never actually finish my novel, to helping you actually finish it. The next thing we heard from writers is the messy middle, where unfinished novels go to die. And so here, a lot of people struggle with this. So you don't have to be a plotter to actually know what your story is about. If you know your key scenes, and if you even know just your story goal and the climax, so my story goal is to solve this murder and my climax scene is the detective solves the murder, everything in between, that's the minimum outline. You can eliminate the messy middle, and we have a way of doing that. Right up to, if you like to plot out every single scene and know what's happening, we can help you do that too. The other thing we heard from writers is endless editing and revisions. And with Fictionary and drawing the story arc for you, it tells you basically when you're done. You've got your story. And when you've straightened out that story arc scene and you've gotten all your key scenes that you need before and after, you have a story. The genre trap. So this was the other thing that came out, was staying fresh while filling the mold. Fitting the mold. And so there's genre expectations. When you write genre fiction, the reader wants certain things to happen, and you can just make it unique to yourself. And so it comes out in your voice, it comes out in the little pieces of your story, in your prose. You can still have a unique story and use tropes and all kinds of things that are similar in other stories, but make it your own. Then there's the question, is my story any good? And if you remember, I showed you in the app, you can look at we've got 38 Fictionary story elements, and you can look at those and analyze your story and answer that question objectively. And it all starts with the 5 scenes of, do you have those? Without those, you don't have a story yet. So it can't be good until you actually have those. And then imposter syndrome and battling self-doubt. Well, when you can actually look at your scenes and you know you need these scenes and you know they're in your story, that really helps with battling self-doubt. And so does a kind community where people are cheering you on and helping you and um, giving you ideas, etc. So here's what we believe. We believe that writers have to write, and typing blindly into the dark can lead to a hot mess. And this is one of our editor's words, hot mess. And I love this word because you end up with this 80,000 word draft and don't know what to do with it. But if you start at the beginning with even a minimum outline, we can help you avoid that. Good story structure enables writers to ditch the guesswork and the messy middle. So when you know your story needs these 5 scenes and you can put them in there, you're not guessing anymore of what you should or shouldn't have in your story. The right software eliminates subjective opinions and uses objective visuals to show if your story is working. And this is why we developed our software, because we wanted writers to have a way to really look at their story. And particularly for writers who can't afford an editor, this is a great way to actually see yourself if you have a good story. Our live class is personalized instruction, and I believe so strongly in this because I've seen it in action where, because we don't record, people can ask questions about their novel specifically, and our trained editors will answer those questions and help them move forward with their story. And I also believe a kind and supportive community cures isolation and promotes accountability. And I can see in the chat that some of my Fictionary members are here, and they can just tell you, really, we have a super kind community and it's a joy to work with everybody there. So what we have are 3 pillars. We have one ecosystem, and in our Fictionary membership, you get our storyteller software, so you can outline, write, edit, revise your novel all in one place. You get live classes taught by our helpful editors, and our editors are all Fictionary certified story coach editors, so our instructors. They're all fully trained. They're trained how to teach, they're trained in story structure, and they're trained in editing. Every class is different because they all have their own voice as editors, so it's not generic. And we have the kindness community, and our favorite space in the community is Ask an Editor. And so if you have questions, you can ask really detailed theory questions about writing genre fiction, and our editors will answer you. So what do our classes look like? Here's an example. This is one coming up in July, and it's Outline Your Novel, and it's 8 weeks. And so we start with your story idea. That's class 1. We just figure out what's your story about. Then we do the 5 story arc scenes like we talked about today. Then the 3rd week, you get an hour with your instructor just to ask questions and discuss how you're doing so far. And then we go through Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, all of your required scenes that you need in your story, and then we end with a live Q&A. So this one starts July 6th, and if you can't come to every class, that's okay, because we do have a corresponding self-paced course that goes with this. The other course that we have coming up right after that is Write Your Novel. So you outline it and then you write it. So you do your 8 weeks of outlining, your 8 weeks of writing. And here we start with that outline you did in the first class. And we actually start writing your scenes. And so by week 2, you've written your story arc scenes. We do the same thing with live Q&A. And then we go through the rest. We have a whole process that goes along with our course textbook, which is Secrets to Writing a Novel, and follows that same process until at the end of 8 weeks. The goal is you've set your word count of what you do in 8 weeks, and then we help you get there. These are some of our real authors with real successes. We have authors who they're doing their first time book, and Kit Morgan here, who's done over 100 books. So we've got all kinds of authors at every level in Fictionary, and we'd love it for you to join us too. So what we have, there's a new program we're starting to offer. So, and actually everybody here is getting the first view of this. It is brand new. This is your sneak peek at it. We've got 2 types of memberships. One is a quarterly membership and the other is annual. And basically a quarterly ends up to $66 a month and annual ends up to $49 a month. But what we do is we offer a 1 month, so 30-day free trial that you can come in and you get the software, you get the live classes, you get the community. And if you cancel anytime before that 30 days is up, there's no risk to you. So you can come in and try everything. And as a bonus just for this, so until July 6th, we're going to give 25% off of our annual membership. So it's a good time to come and sign up. And we've got new courses beginning July 6th and forward. So it's a great time to come and try us out. And so if you want to find us, we're at fictionary.circle.so. These are some of our books that our authors have written. And before I turn it over to BookBaby, I want to show you one book by one of our authors. And this is by Dr. P, and he's a Fictionary member, and he wrote this book and published it on BookBaby. And it's an absolutely beautiful book. Super excited for him, and I thought that would be a nice handover. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go over to Ramona and invite her into session. And there's Ramona. Okay, now Ramona, hang on a second, I'm not hearing you. Can somebody put in the chat if you're hearing Ramona on YouTube?
That was my fault. Now can you hear me?
Now we can hear Ramona.
Perfect.
Okay, that made me just a little bit nervous, but
That's okay. I'm sorry.
whatever you were saying, say it again. I'm going to go into the backstage, but you can hear me, so if you need me, just tell me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So, hi everyone. I'm Ramona. I am an account executive at BookBaby. I've been here for a little over 8 years working with authors in many different genres. I know Kristina was talking a lot about fiction, but we work with nonfiction authors as well. I saw somebody kind of posted a question about that. But she gave a lot of wonderful information, and BookBaby is here to answer the question, now what? Now that you've finished your manuscript, you can come to us and we can help you take your manuscript to the marketplace. Give me just a moment. And so the objectives and what I'm trying to tell you is how to publish your book. You know, you can go traditional, but self-publishing, you don't have to worry about rejection. You have a lot more control, and then you really understand the process of what it takes to become a successful author and, again, take your manuscript to marketplace. So we're going to talk about finalizing and polishing your manuscript as your first step, preparing your book for publication as a second step, and the third step is publishing it, distributing it, and promoting it. So the first thing you want to do after you followed all of Kristina's wonderful advice is take your manuscript and say, okay, now that it's written, now that I understand that I've hit all of those 5 points, still need to polish it. That's the first draft. You're not done there. So you want to think about editing so that you're getting an outside opinion. I'm also a creative like a lot of you. I write fantasy, sci-fi, so I write fiction. And so sometimes staring at that manuscript, if you've written before, as I'm sure many of you have, you can become cross-eyed. Your mind starts auto-correcting. So it's nice to have a professional opinion and a professional advice on what else you need to do to really polish that manuscript before it becomes a final book. At BookBaby, we offer 3 different options. We offer proofreading, copy editing, and line editing. And so you can decide how much you really want to do with us. You can do a light grammar correction. You can do a little bit more elaborate and look at your sentence structure, your verb tenses, or you can go full out and have the editor look at everything, how you've plotted the story, your pacing, how you've developed your characters, and more. So that's the first step. Once you've gotten your feedback and you're looking it over and you apply those final notes that the editor has given you, now you're thinking, okay, the story is done, it's nice and clean, I'm ready to go. How do I turn this manuscript into a book? And that's where we go into step 2. There's a lot of things to consider. I hear a lot of authors saying almost every day, I thought writing was the hard part, but this is actually harder. And so at BookBaby, we really try to make this as easy as possible. Okay, you finish your manuscript, you've got it edited, but now it's time to transform it into a beautiful book, something that you want to see that rivals traditional published books on shelves, right? So cover design, you want to think about everything, the full wraparound, front, back, and spine. You want to think about what your vision is, how it aligns, how it matches in the market. And we have designers here who have all of that knowledge that can really help bring, your concept to life. On top of that, you want to think about not only how the cover looks, but you want to think about how the inside pages look. All those little stylistic details. I know that Kristina showed one of the stories, Fourth Wing. I'm sure when you're flipping through those pages, there's like little stylistic details that you might see at the beginning of each chapter. The the beginning of each paragraph for each chapter might have a bigger letter, it might have special font. And so, again, there are a lot of things to consider, and there are probably hundreds of thousands of options out there that you can choose from, and it varies by genre. So, again, our designers are knowledgeable. Other specialists that we have at BookBaby are knowledgeable and can really give you advice so that it doesn't feel overwhelming and daunting in making these decisions. Not only can you think about these for a printed book, you can also think about this for an ebook so that all of it's cohesive. You're giving people options of print versus digital. And then after you've made all of those decisions, you think it's done, but there's still more. Not only do you obviously need an ISBN to publish your book, and you'll need it for each form, you want to think about what's called metadata. And even in traditional publishing, they think about this. So these are keywords that are tied to your project that the readers can't see, but you'll know as the author, this is what they're typing in when they want to find a story like yours. And so you want to think about these keywords when you're writing your blurb. What are people going to type when they're looking for my romance novel or for my sci-fi or for my fantasy? And what we can do at BookBaby is after you kind of figure out what makes sense for your story, our experts can even enhance those words and they can really be key points and ping points that help in the searchability of your book. Again, you think it's all over, but then there's more. So you want to make sure that all of that comes together and it looks good before you really decide, okay, let me hit this button and say, let's publish it. So you can print some copies. You can just print a sample and say, okay, now that I've made all these decisions, I've done all these hard work, I've worked with BookBaby to bring this all together in a physical form. Let me just see what it looks like when it's in my physical hands to make sure that my concept really came to life the way I envisioned it. So that's one thing you can do, and you can do it in all different versions, hardcover, paperback. And so once you have that physical book in your hand, you might notice some things that you didn't notice when you were staring at it on the computer. You might make some final adjustments, which, again, you have all the time, so you didn't just rush and publish it. And once you make those final decisions, if that's necessary, then you can think about publishing your book. Um, you'll like at BookBaby, we can help you get it to market. So we would function as a liaison and help you publish it on Amazon, on our own online storefront, and also get it into the catalog's wholesalers so that if brick and mortar or other institutions want to sell your book for resale, they can and you'll still earn royalties. While we're taking care of that portion, which makes it very easy for you, you would also be thinking about, okay, I've made all of these decisions in writing the story, polishing it, all the executive decisions of the creative ideas of how I want this physical project to look. And now you want to think about promoting the book, and there's many different strategies. You can do a lot of research and come up with a strategy of your own. You can pay for marketing services, which BookBaby offers, where you can promote on social media. And you can think about, again, how much and how expansive you want it to be. If you want it to go to all of the places I just listed, or if you want to keep it a little smaller and maybe start off with just one place to publish it and then expand later. So again, there are always decisions to make if you're a self-published author. Honestly, if you go in any direction, you still want to think about these things because like we say, this story, this book is your baby, and so you have to make all of those decisions of how you want your baby's future to be. So when I was saying, start small, and not small as far as unimportant, but for example, BookBaby has its own online store, and that's more about direct to reader sales. Our store is called BookBaby Bookshop, and it offers a lot of different things that you don't get with other places like Amazon or any other bookstore that might come to mind. So when you're selling your print book or your ebook, you get higher royalties. People can order the book, We print it right on demand. So as the orders come in, we're printing the books, we're packaging them, we're shipping them out directly to the readers. And you get your royalties faster. The book is always in stock, and you can do really cool things that you can't do elsewhere. You can collect email addresses if you want to build a mailing list. You can create special promo coupons for if you want to run a specific campaign, like when you were thinking about marketing. You can create a special code that's only for that marketing time period that you're thinking about promoting your book for whatever reason. And you can even customize a web page that's standalone. So when you're sharing your URL, your link, and say, hey, my book is out there, I've done all this work, now please support and buy my book, you can give them a unique link for them to go to, and they can see your customized web page and see, again, everything that reflects all the hard work that you've put into your story. So, again, I know I've been talking about a lot of things to consider. Kristina has done the same things. Again, it's a lot, but if this is your passion, it's never too much. The common pitfalls that you want to avoid, like I was saying before, is just don't rush the editing process. I know we all get eager, we're so excited, we want to get this story out, but you definitely want to take your time. You know, make sure that you're just really going through it. You're going over it sometimes with a fine tooth comb. You don't want to miss anything. So don't rush the editing process. Don't skimp on design. I know that we're in the time of AI and we think, that can be the end all be all, but there's nothing like speaking to another human being who's gone to school for this, who has the knowledge, who understands all the different genres, etc., and really getting real live feedback on, you know, if you're heading in the right direction, you can bounce ideas off of them. And so, you know, and especially if you're doing this for the first time, you really don't want to skimp on getting a nice cover design and formatting. Another thing you want to avoid is rushing launching your book. Again, we're so eager, we're so excited, we want to share it, we just want to slap it up there on Amazon. Don't do that because, again, I talk to so many people and I hear so many people, talking about how they regretted that, they take it down, and it's almost like, once something goes on the internet, it's almost like it's there forever. Somebody will see some type of shadow or some remnant of it. So just don't rush the launch. You want to think about how you want to promote it, which is the next thing, how you want to market it. Don't ignore that. Really come up with a plan, come up with a strategy that makes sense for you, that feels natural for you. Hire a company like BookBaby or even a larger marketing firm for resources to really promote your book so that when you do launch and publish it and it's available for sale online, you know that you've put your best foot forward. So those are a few things to consider. The last one is choosing the wrong distribution model for your goals. Every project is different. Sometimes when you're a new author, you think it's one size fits all. Honestly, I've been with BookBaby for 8 years, and in that time, I've also worked in traditional publishing. There is no one size fits all in any aspect of it, whether it's independent or traditional. So you want to really think about your story. You want to think about who your audience is, and you want to make sure that when you publish it, that platform makes sense for all of those things. So I hope all of that was helpful. I know, I feel like I speak a lot really fast. I'm from the Northeast, so for anyone who's not from the Northeast in the U.S., I apologize. But yeah, to finally recap, self-publishing gives you back the power. You don't have to wait for someone to, excuse me. Okay, excuse me. You don't want to have to wait for someone to tell you that your story is worth it. You don't want to have to wait a year, 2 years to say, okay, now we accept it, or now it's popular and we want to help you publish. You can empower yourself. You have the control, and you can decide when you want to publish your book and make all of those decisions. But again, that requires planning and also requires some patience. So, second thing, take your time, focus on the quality, on the editing of all of the design, all of the production, and then again, make sure that your distribution decision, where you want to publish before you launch, matches your story itself, the genre, and your vision. Um, okay, give me just a moment. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at some questions from people in the group, and it says, "Do you have human editors that are available to hire once you've edited?" As far as okay, got it. All right. So, yes, yes, we do have human editors. Actually, we have a running saying at BookBaby is that we're people powered, and so everything is human. Our designers are in house. All of our editors is a network of actual human beings who work in both the traditional and independent sector. Everything is touched by an actual human being, from reviewing incoming files to physically touching the books to put them all together. We do our own printing, so we are hands on, and again, we are people powered. Uh, I think that's it for the most part, so I'm going to stop sharing. And if Kristina wants to come back and join me, and I guess we can answer questions, that'll be fine by me.
Ah, I'm so happy when the tech works. That's fantastic. And I'm just going to scroll up a little bit here. Okay. So that we've answered. And feel free, everybody, if you just want to put your questions in the chat. So the first question up here is book covers in recent years are very, very colorful and eye-catching. This must be new in the print process.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Christina?
Yeah, so it's book covers in recent years are very colorful and eye-catching.
Mm.
Is this new in the print process?
Oh, so no, it's not new in the print process. I mean, color is color. So the beautiful thing about the print process, like physical printing, is it actually shows everything we can see with the naked eye, which actually isn't something we can see digitally. I think it's just a trend right now, and it's not even with all genres. It might be with certain ones like romance. What is it? Emily Henry. Hers are like a really colorful but also simple at the same time. But no, it's not a new thing.
Okay. Tell me.
Someone else said, oh,
Okay.
someone else said Book Baby's great, and a lot of people are disappointed with quality in general using publishers. So should you publish with Book Baby, even though it's not a requirement? I would say yes, obviously, but I even say to people every day, I don't even say this just because I work here. I've literally been in the plant. I am my creative myself. I print my own personal books here, and I've compared it. I've printed it elsewhere. I tried it at Amazon and other places, and I'm like, it's not. It's not it. It's not the same. And so we have something where you don't have to fully commit and spend all this money just to see what it's like. You can test it out. You can print a sample book. You can pace yourself. Take as much time as you want. Like we said, take your time. We don't rush you. So we're here to help you at your own speed, at your own pace to really execute your vision and your goal.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's a question, does through Fictionary, do you have to publish with BookBaby? No, you can pick whoever you want. We're just here with BookBaby today because we like them.
And also, I mean, we really educate our authors. We have a lot of free material on our website, bookbaby.com. So you can go there, download guides, and there's no obligation to work with us. But we really are invested in, helping people understand the process, and we would love for you to want to work with us.
Absolutely. Somebody asked, is there a replay? Yes, anyone who RSVP'd is going to get a replay. You'll see you'll see it come out maybe by Friday. Um, okay, and someone else, is this for fiction only? What about nonfiction? So, Fictionary is for fiction only. BookBaby does both fiction and nonfiction, correct?
Yes, we do all genres. We do everything from textbooks, technical books, romance, all the genres, children's books. So basically, pretty much everything. And someone also asked if BookBaby is for only the US market or for the UK. Actually, we have international authors. We have authors in Australia, UK, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, many other countries. So we can print and we can ship internationally.
Okay, perfect. Will someone at BookBaby actually read my book?
So the only person from BookBaby that will read your book is the editor. Apart from that, you have a lot of other people like myself, who's a specialist that will help you really navigate all the other things.
Right, right. Okay. totally off different topic. So is it possible to get a copy of the plot graph that we were shown earlier? So that I think would, I'll take that to mean the drawing of the story arc in Fictionary. So if you just stop the video, you can do a screen share and just grab it right there. And then you have it. So absolutely. Somebody says, I learned about metadata the hard way with another company. I thought I was done, but that was when you really want uh, to proofread and to end, this is jumping, sorry, and to end to avoid embarrassment. There were so many mistakes. I don't think there's really a question there,
Exactly.
but yep, proofreading, very important. Okay, Stephen, here now, okay, here's the question. How do you anticipate AI will influence your input end at BookBaby and also this writing platform? Do you want to
So
go first for BookBaby and then I'll answer for
yeah,
Fictionary?
absolutely. So AI won't influence your work at BookBaby because we don't use AI. We're people powered. We're like myself. There's a bunch more of us actual human beings. There's nothing, no software or anything that will affect your book. We actually have a YouTube channel as well, so you can go to our
Yeah.
YouTube. We actually show the process that our designers go through start to finish and how they take the author's concept and turn it into a final book cover. So we're showing you our actual designers and really what it takes to put all of this together. There's no AI involved.
Okay, so we are a community of people, but we do use AI. So where we use AI in Fictionary is we use it to help an author evaluate their story. So we never we made this strategic decision early on that we didn't want to be altering text. So we don't proofread, we don't copy edit, we don't write a scene for you. You can't put in, okay, write this scene. We don't do that. What we do is once you've written a scene, we have a Edwina, and Edwina is our AI instructor. And she will look at your scene and she'll tell you, is it structured strongly? Do you have an opening hook, a point of view goal, a middle, a climax, an exit hook in your scene? It will it's based on the Write Novels That Sell series, so on my books. And so you can put in, you're writing a fantasy. Does this scene work specifically for an inciting incident for fantasy, for example? And Edwina will come back and tell you. So our goal with AI is to help you write a better story, not write it for you. And being a writer myself, this is just my view of how it's just, I think it's good for people to be creative and to write their own stories. And as I said earlier, that we don't use any of the manuscripts for training. It's private. Your manuscript comes in, it's private, and you do what you need to do to write it to make it a great story.
There were some other questions I saw while you were answering that
Okay.
one, and I'm going to try to combine my answer for a few of
Okay.
them.
Excellent.
So, if you want to traditionally publish, yes, you can still use BookBaby to edit your work and then go off and try to find an agent and traditionally publish. Even if you use I don't really consider something like Grammarly or those other programs AI. Like we have to use something. But even if you use something like that before you submit it to an editor who is an actual human being, that's fine. They are still going to look it over and make whatever corrections they would normally make. So nothing is lost there. And if you've already published on some place like Amazon, yes, you can republish through BookBaby. If you've published somewhere else like Ingram Spark or whatever else, again, you can still republish with BookBaby, and we can explain all the different ways you can do that depending on what your situation
Okay. I'll do one more AI. Is Fictionary
is.
AI connected to other AIs? No, your story won't be out there. It's protected behind our, well, it's password protected, like don't share your password, but um no, it doesn't get shared anywhere. It's yours privately. And I'm an author myself. I get why that's really important. I know how hard it is to write a novel. My first novel, I spent 2 years writing it, and so it's my novel. I want it to be mine, not someone else's. So yep.
And someone actually asked an interesting question. They mentioned CD Baby, who is a was a sister company to Book Baby, and they made music. So sometimes authors who do children's books or maybe even something spiritual, they create CDs to go with it. CDs are still a thing. It's like the younger people. It's coming back. Like the CDs are their records to some of us who are a little bit older. So you can still do CDs, but we don't put them in with our books, but that's still an option if you want to, pair them together.
Yep. How fun. I mean, really, how fun. I still use my own
Yeah.
stuff. It's all good. All good. Okay, I think that we have covered all the questions. I want to thank everybody for coming, and Ramona, thank you for joining from BookBaby. We
Thanks
will
for
send a
having me.
replay so you can watch it at your leisure, and hopefully we see you sometime in the future, either in Fictionary or in BookBaby.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody, and thank you, Ramona.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Bye.